Honestly, as much as I love beating you, that was sad. I mean, this isn't even fun anymore, man.
Who do you think you're telling? I lost to Buffalo a few nights ago.
Dang. Well, you know what they say, any given Sunday and all that.
The Sabres were missing 3 of their top 6 guys.
Yikes, that's as bad as it gets.
Doesn't even make the top 5 for me this year. Maybe not even top 10.
Oh, come on, that's a little dramatic.
7-2 loss to Buffalo in January. 6-5 loss to Ottawa when leading by 2 with less than 4 minutes left in the game. 8-1 loss to Winnipeg.
I mean, they're really good, though.
A 5-1 loss to Seattle. 2 separate ass kickings at the hands of the Nashville Predators. An 8-2 loss to Carolina. A 7-2 loss to Dallas. A 6-2 loss to Columbus. I mean, that's just off the top of my head. The list goes on.
Aren't these episodes supposed to be uplifting and positive?
Yeah, so?
So this is pretty negative.
Yeah, you're right. Let's think of something positive to say before we go. Come on. Low-quality fans of a high-quality Bruins franchise. It is 1 a.m. West Coast swings. They suck. So I'm trying not to be super loud. But that is not a dub. It is our 14th game by losing by 4 or more goals, which actually puts things into perspective a little bit here because I don't know if people understand that through a Bruins lens, how bad this season is, right? Now, we are not a bottom 5 team right now, nor will we get there. I keep seeing people talk about top 5 picks, and it's just unlikely without the luck coming into it. We'll be in the conversation for a good bounce to get us a top pick. God knows we deserve a good bounce this year, right? Anyway, so historically, the last time the Bruins had 15 or more losses by 4 or more goals, I believe, was back in the 60s, like the early 60s, which, is a long time ago. I apologize if you were alive at that time and I made you feel old, but frankly, that's a long time ago. And on top of that, this is, or we thought it was, the 3rd straight game with under 20 shots for the Bruins. Now, it looks like they found a shot to add in the Buffalo game, so we got 20 shots in that game. But if that had been true, just to put things into perspective again, that would be the first time the franchise had gone 3 straight games with under 20 shots since 1960. Like, there are certain things happening that show that this team is really bad right now from a Bruins perspective. There are, when you look at Anaheim and Colorado and San Jose and over the last decade, some of the seasons they've had, well, I guess now Colorado, it's decade plus, but mid-2010s, Colorado was terrible. They had some seasons where you're just, holy crap, this team is so brutally bad. Even 2 years ago when the Bruins had a plus 130-something goal differential, 120-something, something ridiculous, we got beat. I think actually it was 128 because I think Anaheim had minus 129 plus goal differential, which is insane. It's nuts. And I remember being really bitter about that because I felt like we lost that. Like we wanted to have, a higher goal differential than they had a low one. I don't know why. In my brain, it made sense. I wanted it. Let's talk about this Vegas team a little bit now that I've bummed everyone out with these awful stats about how bad this team is. The Vegas Golden Knights, coached by Bruce Cassidy. I know I'm going to hear a lot about that in the comments. I still believe that coaches have shelf lives, and I also believe that he wasn't moved on from just because of Jake DeBrusk. I think both of those things are true, at least in my mind. So either way, the Vegas Golden Knights. It's the second meeting of the year against them. We lost 4-3 in February against them. They continue to prove my concerns about their wing depth wrong. Mostly Dorofeyev has proven that, which he had another good one in this one. And they prove that center depth is far more important than virtually anything else, they do have the beefiest and fastest defense in the league as well. That probably helps. But we already knew that the center position was super important, and that's where you should start. And it's funny, not that the Bruins have really any wing depth to brag about, other than Pasta, obviously, but he's not depth. He's just your superstar. They have no centers to go against these guys. They can roll out 3 high-end centers, and we cannot. We don't have one of those. That's okay, though. They are second on the power play, 22nd on the penalty kill, 6th in goals for, and 8th in goals allowed. Very good stats. They just locked up Aiden Hill for the next 6 years, which is interesting because he will make $6.25 million a year for the next 6 years, which at first seems like a lot for a goaltender who's consistently okay to good, right? I don't think Aiden Hill is considered one of your top-tier goaltenders in the league. Probably why he didn't get $8 million plus, right? But 6.25 when the cap goes up is your new $4 million, right? Like, that's just how that works. Is people want to talk about cap space. You're going to have all this cap space because the cap is going up. And yes, that means previously signed contracts are shrinking and everything. But you can't use that argument for how you're going to sign players in the future and how much room you'll have, because agents and players are looking at percentage of the cap. That's what they're looking at. If a player would normally, been under an $82 million cap, be worth $6 million, and then it shoots up to $95 million for the cap, they're going to be like, I want 8. Like, that's the percentage I'm worth for this team. That's how that gets moved forward. That's why things keep increasing. And unless this turns into like an NBA situation where your elite talent get all the money and then everyone else just gets scraps, which I don't think hockey's ever really going to move that direction, or at least won't for a long time. There's a real conversation to have about how some of these deals are going to look in the future. I think it's smart for them to get this signed now. I think there's a lot that can go on in 6 years, and Aiden Hill is not the guy I trust the most. But again, he's been really solid, and there's no reason to get upset about a signing like that from their perspective because, hey, this has been a guy that solidified that position. We get to keep him there, sign the check, not worried about it anymore as long as he stays healthy. Honestly, good for him. I don't think that's a bad bit of business for them. I think it's a good contract on both ends. For the Bruins, we will be walking out with the exact same lineup as the last couple of games. Swayman is going to take the net. McAvoy and Hampus, of course, are still out. Lysell has been called up from Providence. Now, I know there's a lot of conversation about how his point totals aren't that great and he has all this injury history and all this stuff. Yes, there's a lot of negatives to go with Lysell right now. There's a lot of concern, and there should be. There should be a lot of concern. There's people who are calling him a bust, everything like that. He's 22 years old, something like that. Dorofeyev is finally popping off at 24, so I'm just going to stay hopeful, right? You just stay hopeful. All that being said, people are probably wondering, hey, why isn't he in the lineup then? He got called up, and this lineup can't produce at all. And Lysell, although recently called a scoring disappointment, he was drafted as a scorer. He wasn't. He was drafted as a playmaking, speedy winger. Like, that was his MO going into the draft. Sorry, I'm a little bitter about an article that came out that was really torching the guy and talking about how disappointing his goal scoring numbers were when that's not his bread and butter. He has a good shot, but like, he's a facilitator, he's a passer. We have a few of those. But why isn't he in the lineup? I don't exactly know. I really don't. I could see plenty of reason to get him worked in. I think the call-up happened because Elias Lindholm was potentially going to miss this game depending on his injury, and they wanted to make sure they had him for the road trip. If they were going to slot him in, they would have moved somebody else to the center position, and Lysell would have been in the middle six somewhere. My assumption is he gets a game this weekend, right? Like, he called him up for the road trip, get him in a game or two. There's plenty of guys you can scratch right now. Who cares? Like, you're not going to scratch your Nadinov because you want to continue to evaluate him. You're not going to scratch Middlestat. You're not going to scratch your top line. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I'm sure they won't scratch Elias, but I mean, if they scratched any of Elias, Lauko, Kepke, Letteri, Beecher, Brown, Kostelek, I'd be like, okay, I don't really, sure, whatever. Who cares? This is a brutal forward group. We're gonna do a game note at the end. I'm just gonna talk about it now. This game sucked, and we'll talk about the game in a second. But there's the tank's going. The tank is ongoing. Awesome, great, we love it. We are going to have time to get concerned about next year. We're gonna have plenty of time for that. I'm not doing that now. But offensively, this is so very brutal, given the stats that I handed out earlier and just this whole conversation. Technically, there are no proven assets coming to rescue us next year, right? This is your lineup next year if no roster changes are made. Now, of course, roster changes will be made, but in-house, you hope Huznadinov, Fraser Minton, Matthew Patra, Fabian Lysell, Georgi Merkulov, who's probably in the KHL next year, someone can be a difference maker, because this is not easily fixable in free agency. Yes, we have a lot of money. We also have a ton of holes we need to fill. So it's not like, hey, we can just, right? There's really going to be some strategy to this. Also, free agency, I want to remind everybody, is a list of players who want to get top dollar, right? It's not all location based. It's, I want top dollar for my services. You are paying full price for free agents. There's no like team friendly deals and things like that. And they're players that other teams have felt comfortable walking away from for some reason or another. Now, obviously, you can get some real gems in free agency. You can get some really valuable players. I'm not acting like that doesn't happen. But there is not a lot there to fix this squad to the point of offensively being a contender next year. Now, of course, we're built from the net out. Swayman has to have a better year next year if the Bruins are going to be better. He does. That's just a flat-out fact. He has to be way better than he was this year. I know he had some good stretches. He's also had some really bad stretches. He has to be way better next year for this team to compete. The defense obviously has to stay healthy, but now that right side has some severe weaknesses to it. There's a lot that needs to get better for this team, and there is this general sense as I'm watching Twitter and social media that we'll just pick up a top 6 center and a top 6 winger in the offseason. Top 6 centers are extremely rarely available in free agency, like true top 6 talents. Very, very rare at the center position for a team to walk away from a guy like that. That's why we talked about the Elias Lindholm thing and that signing and how they went forward with it, because they thought he was the best option. And many of us were preaching like, hey, best option doesn't mean a good idea. Like, hey, it's the best available. Okay, don't do that unless you think he actually makes the team better. He might be a $7 million third C for a long time. We might. I'm really hoping he bounces back and he looks like a really solid second C next year. We'll see what happens. But all that to be said, super negative, I know, but there is going to have to be someone in-house who takes a jump next year and really helps this top 6, because we just need things to trickle. If you look at the current lineup, we got to ignore center position because it's some form of Zaka, Lindholm, Middlestat. Patra might get worked in there somewhere. I don't know, but that's some form down the center. It's not great. I understand that, and I don't think that's solvable in free agency. But Geeky Pasternak will be in your top 6 next year. Now, of course, Pasta, but Geeky in top 6 is a little damning in general. I know he's having a very good season, but it's not where he's most advantageously put, is what I'm getting at. Lauko can't be in your top 6. Huznadinov is unlikely to be a true top 6 guy. I think he's like a third left winger or something along those lines. Kepke might be in the lineup. He might not be. Lettieri shouldn't be in the lineup. Beecher, Brown, Kostelic, those are all pure fourth line guys at best. Brown absolutely shouldn't be in the lineup. I have no idea why he's even still playing on this team, unless they're just actively okay with losing games, which I get it. But you are basically looking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, at least 5 guys who are playing at least one line higher than they should be right now. At least. That's like bare minimum. That's not just fixable through free agency throwing money everywhere. It just doesn't work like that, unfortunately. So you need to have somebody who steps up, because all of a sudden, if you have a top 6 guy in-house, say Fraser Minton turns out to be better than we expected, right? And he's not a 3C, he's actually a top 6 guy. If he jumps up and you have that left side is now Geeky Minton and you're happy with that, it does change the entire landscape of the forwards. Players get to get moved down a slot. They get better matchups. They get to perform with a little, maybe it's a guy who now he's only getting 14 minutes, but he gets to empty the bucket for those 14 minutes. And he doesn't have to worry so much about facing other teams' top lines or things of that nature when he's outclassed by those lines. Every single player you can slot at the proper position makes your team better. Right now, the reason we're so bad at creating any offense is because any team playing us can just take their best defensive line, put it against the Zaka line, the top line, and then every other line wins their battles. Because every other line for us, the second, third, and fourth, all have players on it are playing above their station. It's a tough picture. Now, of course, you get Ehlers in the offseason or something like that, then all of a sudden things just look a little better if he could stay healthy. It's all that. But, so that's kind of where I'm looking at it. I know I'm just rambling forever before we actually even get into this game, but I'm seeing a lot of talk about the offseason and how free agency should work, and I understand being very, very hopeful for that, very optimistic, and I am hopeful they can make some real changes and get some impact guys in. But free agency typically isn't where you're going to win a cup, I don't think. I think it can help, certainly, but there's in-house talent that's super necessary to find. And there's just the gems. You got to find the gems, and whether that be through free agency or trade, you do have to find some of that. But typically, I think you need to build the right core, and we're still missing a couple of core pieces. We'll get there. It's fine. Let's talk about this game, shall we? As I'm already 16 minutes into recording. Puck drops! It's a little loud. I have one note for the first period. It's a power play for us. It's a brutal call. Beecher toe picks. They call Stone for tripping. The refs were abhorrent this whole game to both sides. This is an awful call. But Vegas can probably rest assured that our power play isn't going to do anything. And it doesn't. We're going to go to the second period. It's 0-0. It's been good energy in the first. The Bruins brought it. Both goalies look sharp. Maybe we can hang around with this team, see what happens. Yeah, second period starts, and 29 seconds in, a great pass from Pasta to Geeky at the bottom of the left circle, wide open net, sharp angle shot, posting out. Geeky. He just loves it. I have Aiden Hill on my fantasy team, and so I'm just kind of like, ugh. Am I sad that he missed that, or am I happy he missed that? I don't know. Very conflicting. Because my fantasy season isn't over, much unlike the Bruins season. 8:15 in. Zadorov goes for slashing. That's another tough call. I didn't like this call at all. It was stick both times, and he was playing defense. Zadorov has looked really solid the past couple of games. You love to see him calm down a little bit and get a little steadier. This power play is so good. Vegas' power play is so good. They get a couple clears, or we get a couple clears, but they get right back into the zone. Lohrei gets Stone pinned as Stone collects a puck at the top of the right point, but he gets down the wall just enough. Lohrei comes in. Unfortunately, Koepke also comes in to double team him on the wall, and Stone still wins the board battle. He's able to shuffle that puck up to Hanifin, who's farther up at the point on the blue line. He quickly dishes this down to Eichel, who's got way too much room in the slot, but that's because Koepke and Lohrei went for Stone. I was fine with Lohrei doing it. Koepke's got to then fill in to more of a 4-on-3 defense, unless you're positive you can win that board battle, which they lost. So Eichel collects. Yoki Haru is in front of Eichel in the slot, but Eichel's able to just dish off to Dorofeyev, who's in that left circle. An absolute great shot. Beats a Swayman top blocker. 1-0 power play goal for them. One goal. It's just one goal. Easy. We can get one goal. Easy. 8:09 left. Beecher for hooking. We're going back to the penalty kill. We do kill it. 5 minutes left. Eichel goes down the tunnel after a shot block. I'm pointing this out because this is the time of year where everyone gets super nervous, right? It's time to get nervous. Because if you're going to the playoffs, like Vegas is, any injury like this, your heart just sinks when you see it. Now, Eichel would return, but he does go down to the tunnel, and everyone just goes, oh, shit, that's not great. But he's back. 4:09 left. Saad walks right through Yoki Haru for a 1v1 against Swayman, who attempts a 5-hole shot, but Swayman slams the door shut. Swayman, up to this point, was really keeping us in this. We had given up a lot of high danger chances, and Swayman just kept coming up big. And then 48 seconds left. Unfortunately, this is when the wheels are going to start falling off. Vegas wins a faceoff in the offensive zone on the far side. Immediately, the puck is moved to Dorofeyev, who's in the slot. I think Kuznetsov should have had him. He just didn't recognize the play very quickly, and he got too high in the slot. It's just passed right behind him to Dorofeyev, who's got a couple of screens to work with and just throws it blocker side, ends up beating Swayman low blocker. It's 2-0. Through 2 periods, the Bruins have 11 shots. I know that everyone wants to get on Swayman's case here, and there was a couple in this game I didn't love by Swayman either. Not in the sense of like, hey, a goaltender should have that, but in the sense of a elite number 1 should have that. That's a conversation we're usually having anyway. Is that a fair expectation for him to make that save all the time? Probably not, but you need to come up with these big saves every now and again when you're the number 1 guy, right? So we're going to talk about a couple of those. But I know everyone wants to get on Swayman. If your offense cannot string together more than 1 chance in the offensive zone, and they're getting, as far as real chances, real scoring chances, 2 to 3 a period at most, it's just really hard to blame the goaltending, right? Like, your team's not scoring at all. Does this goaltending need to be better? Absolutely. But Jesus, like, guys, put some offense out there. I know what the roster looks like. I'm not actually getting upset about this. 5:47 into the 3rd period. Zadorov has his shot blocked, and back the other way, it's a 3-on-1. Because Zadorov tries to follow his shot block, and then it just, there's no one back. Brett Howden down the left side. Now, Yoki Haru plays this right. He's just stuck in the middle. He's got 2 guys on his side. He goes, Swayman, you have to beat Howden. I've got to just try to make sure he can't get it to either of these players so that you have a real chance. Otherwise, this is just a freebie backdoor chance. So Swayman versus Howden. Howden ends up beating him top blocker. Again, one hell of a shot. And that'll be 3-0. That is the second 3-on-1 of the period. The first one didn't really amount to anything. Now, 9:38 left. Another faceoff win by the Knights in our zone. Blast from the blue line takes a deflection. Swayman recovers enough to stay in front of it, but he loses the rebound underneath him. He's sprawling, he's flailing, he's kicking his legs up, he's doing photosynthesis, the whole kit and caboodle. Dorofeyev walks over and goes, hey, it's a little weird. I'll just grab that, thanks, and then shoves it in the net. And it's 4-0. Dorofeyev gets his little hattie. Good for him. Good for him. And I kept seeing everyone be like, wow, Dorofeyev developed a nice little, goal scorer under Bruce Cassidy, all that kind of stuff. Dorofeyev's 24. I mean, there are certain things that bother me about certain narratives, and they were patient with Dorofeyev, and he ended up, getting where he needed to go. And the Bruins give up on prospects at 21 years old all the time. Or at least the fans do. So, I don't know. I don't think Cassidy was like a problem here. I think he had a shelf life, and it came around that it was time to move on for him. 5:36 left. Eichel walks peak on the left side, then dishes up the slot for a wide open net for Barbashev. 5-0. Brutal game. And just when I'm sitting there going like, well, at least Hill's going to get me some real solid points, which he still did. But I was going to get a shutout, and I didn't get a shutout for my fantasy team. 2:11 left, a little ozone time for the Bruins. And Pasta's going to create something once again. He collects a Yoki Haru pass down the far wall, quickly sauces the shit out of this. Just beautiful pass right on the stick of Geeky, who has a wide open back door. Aiden Hill got over there quick, though, but he still manages to beat him. It's 5-1. We're going to have to kill another penalty. It doesn't matter. 5-1's your final score. Let's talk about some game notes here, shall we? Shall we talk about some game notes? Zadorov's best is coming out through these last few games. He's playing top pairing minutes. He's been solid. He's in the way. He's choosing his spots better with his hits. His active stick. He still makes the dumb icing, dumb penalties every now and again, but he's been better about the penalties. Certainly has been. So again, I think when the season's basically over, it does allow certain guys to relax, especially guys with high expectations, signing a big contract, and then getting torched by a lot of the fan base and the front office at times. Not the front office so much, but the coaching pointed out Zadorov multiple times early in the season, being like, I don't know what he's doing out there. So the pressure's off a little bit more. I think it's allowing him to perform at a higher level, and hopefully that can continue. Because if this is the version of Zadorov we get over the next 4 or 5 years, I'm fine. I think he's an overpaid defenseman in general. You know my stance on that. But if he can just not be a liability, then great. You can put him on the ice and he's not a net negative. Awesome. I know people are going to point out his plus minus. I don't believe plus minus is a huge storyteller for players all that much. But sometimes it can be, but for the most part, I'm not a big believer in that particular stat. Everyone has their own way of going about that stuff. The more I watch, another game note, the more I watch Yoki Haru, the more I am very okay not re-signing him. Unless it's for very, very cheap. I know we don't have much on the right side, and we might have to re-sign him just out of necessity, but he just looks like a replacement level guy to me. Like the guy that you put out there and goes, there are several other seventh defensemen that I could put in and have the same results as Yoki Haru. And that's a way too early judgment on my part. I obviously want to have more time to really evaluate that. That's not like an end-all, be-all, there's more information, I'll never change my mind kind of thing. But yeah, I'm a little biased because I didn't really like the player before we got him, and then we got him, and I was like, all right, fine, I guess. And I'm still just not seeing it. We'll see. And then that's basically all the game notes, but the last game note is Tank! Top 5 pick is very unlikely. I think we're hoping to land, if you're rooting that direction. We would basically have to win out to make the playoffs at this point, just on the pace that everyone else is on. But if you are hoping for a higher pick, I think you're hoping to be around 7th and then getting a couple ping pong bounces to get higher than that. So we will see. A top 3 pick can certainly speed some things up here for us. Fingers crossed that happens. We'll see. Go Bees. Go Bees! That was too loud. And of course, here at the end of the video, I love to give some shout outs to the fantastic high quality inspectors who help support the channel and keep this running. I super appreciate every single one of you, from the role player tier, the top line tier, and of course the all-star tier. We are going to do our shout outs for this top line tier. Thank you so much to Sean Kreider, Michael Kamara, Chris and Erica, Kevin Timperley, Quack and Platypus, JM, Shaggy, Adam Ella, Albert Waldron, Negev79, Lola Cattingsworth, EKM Productions, Moonlighter TV, Big Bad Bruin, The Bugman, Jeff with a G, Tommy Braga, Roland22, GD Viperworks, Len Kreutz, Brock Nope, Han Slobo, Coach D, The Atomic Lizard, Bradley Johnson, Brett Arney, Pincent, and Nick Zatrullo. Thank you so much, each and every one of you. Your top line material. But now we got to move on to our all-star tier members, the absolute legends. We have Jacob Pratt, Jake Brower, Dampen, JG's 12, Mark S., Ann Hustis, Tim R., Lorenzo Wood, Penny Pasta, Levi Catalani, Boston Stringler, Bagel, Nightmare Eco, John Kirk, Joel, Heil E. Coyote, Darren Woodbury, Abraxion, Wolf Warrior, Vinny, Adrian Winter, Tupton D. Tashi, Bruin Smash, D.A. Kingery, The Only Newts, A Tasty Snack, Dutes42, and Jeremy. Thank you all for all of the support and love that you are all giving. I appreciate each and every one of you. And as always, Go Bees!